So, the Doctor Who Magic the Gathering Universes Beyond finished spoilers a bit ago, and there's a weird trend I noticed. Some cards are absolute abominations to the show. Most specifically, those cards around the Third Doctor, where all the cards except for one reference the same story, with massive errors as a result. Put simply, the team behind Doctor Who didn't actually watch the Third Doctor's run, and instead just watched the stories The Three Doctors and the Sea Devils.
Well, why'd we stop?
Oh, shit! Let's break down every card that references the Third Doctor and his era. On its own, this list isn't enough to say much. It's odd to note that the Doctor's main cards come from a specific episode, as well as with most of the generic cards being featured in these episodes or with multiple Doctor stories. More on this in a bit. It's important to note what's missing here. Mike Yates is nowhere to be found. Liz Shaw, the only companion for a season, is missing as well. The Third Doctor is tied for the least amount of lands out of any Doctor. And there is a complete lack of exclusive Third Era monsters. Some of these are excusable, such as Liz Shaw, as she's honestly a forgettable companion. But the lack of monsters in Yates is a massive bummer. As a unit soldier, Yates appeared in 9 stories, which is a lot for a Doctor Who character. For exclusive monsters, we should have classics like the Daemons, the Axons, and of course, the Time Monster.
I command you! Be peace! The work is nearly done. For now.
Give us the Time Monster, you cowards! But these exclusions follow a simple pattern. They're not featured in the episode The Sea Devils or The Three Doctors. So in the mind of the set creators, they just don't exist. Let's shift and go into the Sea Devils and the most egregious cards getting their identity exclusively from this episode.
Like that, is it?
The Sea Devils is a 6-parter where the Master attempts to orchestrate a war between a Silurian faction and humanity, all while being a prisoner in an isolated island prison. The story is somehow kind of boring, despite featuring a sword fight between the Doctor and the Master, a chase on jet skis, and the attempted genocide of an alien people. It's just a mid-episode from a pretty weak season. If you want a better recommendation for what Third Doctor episodes to watch, here's my list. Spearhead from Space, Inferno, The Daemons, The Three Doctors, and The Time Warrior. There are a lot more good episodes, and these are just like if you could only watch 5 type list thing, if you want to skim. I really do recommend the original movie edit of Daemons, and you should just watch the Third Doctor's entire run. But the Sea Devils is relevant because the Doctor and Jo Grant get their mechanics from this. Jo Grant's entire cycling gimmick has no bearing on her character at all. It comes from a short scene in the Sea Devils where Jo Grant bribes a guy to borrow a motorcycle. This card ignores Jo Grant's larger character and her role in most stories. There's no self-sacrifice, which she does a lot. There's no being stupid and walking into enemy plans, which she also does a lot. And, most fun for a magic card, there's none of Jo Grant escaping from anything. Doing crazy escape routines with the Doctor, Jo Grant really should have a redirection effect and the ability to give something unblockable or can't be tapped. Instead, we get a completely unrelated meme card. I mean, get it? It has cycling because it's a motorcycle. Now, on to the Third Doctor himself. There are some good things here. The Third Doctor should have trample, and having an artifact theme isn't bad. The Third Doctor really liked to tinker with things and throw hands. But here's what's wrong. First, we're missing the Third Doctor's main gimmick of Anuzi and Aikido. Second, the food token creation is just a meme reference to the scene in The Sea Devils where he eats a sandwich mid-fight. It's a good scene, but it doesn't overwrite everything else about the character. Treasure tokens as well are just kind of an odd way to handle this theming. Third, the color just feels off. They really wrote themselves into a corner while making all the old Doctors white, green, and blue, while making all the new Doctors red, green, and blue. The 9th Doctor should have white, and the 3rd Doctor should have red. And some Doctors, like 10, 7, and maybe 1, could also have their color identity shifted a bit, and I think it would overall help the card's flavor better. All these little facts, plus the high mana cost, leave the 3rd Doctor to feel clunky, not lore accurate, and kind of unloved. It gets more odd when Hero's Blade is another card from this set. It's just the sword he uses from the same sword fight. It is only in one scene and never appears anywhere else in the series. It's just very samey when the Sea Devils is already the Saga card for the 3rd Doctor. By the way, the Saga card should have been Inferno. It's like perfect for that with the ramping up slowly. Every one of these cards is strangely warped around the episode The Sea Devils. Reverse the polarity is a catchphrase used in The Sea Devils as well. I have some personal gripes with reverse the polarity as the third Doctor's catchphrase. He honestly doesn't really have one. He says it maybe about 1.5 times every season. So it is something he says a lot, but not like a lot. Compared to something like Geronimo in the 11th Doctor, it's not like a catchphrase. I don't know. I'm not mad. I actually really like Reverse the Polarity. It's one of the few cards from the third Doctor I'm actually okay with this set, but it also ties into the whole Sea Devils thing, because it is so clear that they only watched 2 episodes.
How are you feeling?
Shoes.
I beg your pardon?
Shoes.
I wonder if the brain's damaged.
The Master is also reduced to just hypnotizing people, something which is like the only thing he does in the Sea Devils, despite the very unique actions of the character and the rest of the series. Though honestly, I'm mostly just mad this card is awful. It's bad. I was so excited to build a commander deck for me and my friend, where I'd get, the third Doctor and he'd get the Master, but I can't do it. It's awful. It's so unplayable. Every other card about the third Doctor falls into multiple Doctor territory, except for the one reference to Invasion of the Dinosaurs. This card is cool as fuck, but it doesn't really follow with how the dinosaurs from that episode work. The villains in that episode are bringing dinos from the past to distract from the evil plans, not changing things into dinosaurs. It could be in reference to their final plan, but I need a board wipe of sorts for that one to be true. I don't think the design team watched this episode, and instead just wanted to make a cool card for Dino tribal decks. Very disappointing. So the other references to the third Doctor are for multiple Doctor things. Sarah Jane Smith, for example, is both a third Doctor and a fourth Doctor companion. Sergeant Benton shows up in second and fourth Doctor stories and in the 3 Doctors. Mike Yates, who is oddly excluded from the set, was only a third Doctor character and did not appear in the 3 Doctors, which, if you'll remember, is the only other third Doctor story the design team watched. The 3 Doctors got watched because it gave the design team room to design Doctor synergy cards. And it sucks to see most of the third Doctor's era relegated to only exist in relevance to other parts of Doctor Who. Monsters that debuted in the third Doctor's era always default to their most recent appearances and have cards referencing those, instead of the original stories. It's so bad, in fact, it even got to the best companion of all time. The Brigadier isn't his own card, and it's just a weird inversion of Kate Stewart. I understand the sentiment where there's a family legacy, but I feel like the copycat effect kind of leaves the Brigadier underwhelming and forgettable, especially in comparison to how big of a role he played in Classic Who, meeting 6 of the classic Doctors. I think really the unique parts of his effect needed to do a little bit more to justify the character. But this is just a problem with the Doctor Who set as a whole. A lot of the Doctors really do feel underwhelming.
Hi! Ha!
There are some well-designed cards from this set. I do love Bessie's design, which of course was in the 3 Doctors. Bessie is just very synergistic with the third Doctor. The alt art of Vineglimmer Snarl is a great reference to the Green Death in the Cave of Spiders. I do only feel like this was included to give the third Doctor a single land, since there wasn't any good land ideas from either the 3 Doctors or the Sea Devils. It is a good inclusion, regardless of my other disappointments in the set. Now, this is the question. Why would Wizards of the Coast do this and just flop on the third Doctor? Easy. It's not malicious or some weird anti-third Doctor propaganda. It's just that the third Doctor is somehow the least popular and least talked about of all the Doctors. He's just Dr. Mid in the eyes of a lot of fans, especially with his era being so unique. This led the Wizards design team to just kinda half-ass this portion of the set and hope no one would notice. Well, I noticed. And it's a shame, because the New Who side of this set is really solid. I am one of the few third Doctor fans, so I'm used to getting shafted. Oh well, it's just another disappointment from the long line of disappointments from Wizards of the Coast. This video was initially just supposed to be a deck profile for the third Doctor and Joe Grant, so here's my deck list for that. Joe Grant doesn't synergize at all with the third Doctor, so just consider it like a classic 6-parter of Doctor Who. This deck starts in one plot and moves to another, relying on Joe Grant and cycling in the early game, and then surprise blindsiding people with a third Doctor beatdown. The price point is insane, but it doesn't matter, because I have easy access to a printer. But if you don't have access to a printer, just sub out the dual lands. The legendary lands are kinda necessary since they gain cycling from Joe Grant. That's all for today's video. Thanks for watching this random off-topic video from me. Please subscribe if you want more of this nonsense. To end this video off, Wilfred Motz should be a companion. He's considered a companion in the end of time, and even RTD said so. Goodbye.